Hi everyone, as it's Sunday I've fortunately been a little bit less busy today, so I've taken the time to go through the recent government press releases for the last few days, and I just wanted to draw your attention to one which might be of interest as fellow property investor and fellow property manager. So this press release was issued a few days ago, and the title of it relates to purchasing properties and moving properties, so it's possible that you might have missed it. It's also not been, I don't think, in the press as significantly as some of the other announcements have in recent days. So essentially what this notice says is that it strongly advises against moving house at this period. It doesn't actually stop the process of purchasing and selling properties. So if you're a property investor and you're looking to purchase a property that you're not going to live in, this should not be impacted. I am aware, however, that there have been some issues with lenders, bridging companies and some mortgage lenders that have imposed restrictions or suspended their activity at this time. However, the government is not preventing you purchasing a property investment at this time, and obviously you need to work with your conveyancing solicitor to be able to progress things. What this note does talk about is if you're moving house personally. So if you're moving a property, usually what happens is that the person moves out and you move in the same day and you swap keys on a Friday afternoon. It's these purchases that the government is strongly recommending no longer happens. The whole note does talk about everybody involved in the chain. So if you're in a purchase chain, you need to take into account of other people in that chain. It also talks about surveyors going to the property. They shouldn't be going to properties that are occupied. They still might do some work on their choice by their risk assessment if the property is empty. Also, the more difficult aspect comes with working with removal men and removal companies for actually moving furniture, and keeping that 2 metre rule. Distancing there is going to prove much more difficult. So if you are investing in property, there might be some disruption to the financial aspect of your purchase, but you should be able to go ahead with this. The other reason I wanted to draw your attention to this, though, was it also talks about renting. So it talks about non-essential move-ins in the rented sector as well. Now, we have voluntarily suspended move-ins to our HMOs, and this has been in place for well over a week now for us. The government hasn't issued any previous guidance on this specifically. However, given the information coming out of government in terms of the importance of social distancing and reducing the risk of transmission, we took the decision that it was sensible not to introduce any new people into existing households. And I think this briefing note makes that very clear. Now, there are still exceptions for moving. So, for example, if there's a key worker or a vulnerable person. Now, obviously, you're not going to be putting a vulnerable person into an existing HMO. However, if you have an empty single let, then that is still permissible. You can still move people in. You will need to be more creative in terms of marketing that property, so potentially creating some sort of little video on your phone or doing a FaceTime call with a prospective interested tenant. You're also going to need to be a bit more creative on how to carry out the right to rent check. So your legal requirements haven't gone away, and you still need to process and vet a tenant as you otherwise normally would. So I just wanted to share this with you. As I say, you might have missed it in the plethora of government announcements that we've all been hit with in recent days and weeks.